Hi, this is lesson 6.5 to 6.6, multiplying a decimal by a whole number and multiplying a decimal by a decimal. Our learning goal for you students is to use the standard algorithm to multiply a whole number / decimal and a decimal. So today we're really going to try to combine two lessons, multiplying a whole number by a decimal and multiplying a decimal by a decimal. And either way, the rule is just the same. So our learning goals for today are to learn the steps for multiplying whole numbers by decimals, that they are similar to the steps for multiplying two whole numbers. Place value determines the placement of the decimal point in a product. The product of two decimals is less than 1. The product of two decimals less than 1 is less than either factor. So when you multiply two decimals, you get a smaller number. We're used to multiplying to get bigger numbers. When we're multiplying two decimals together, we'll get a smaller number. Here's an example. We have 1.2 or 1 2/10 times 3. The process is the same, except the number of the decimal places in the product must be the same as the total number of decimal places in the factors. Since there is one decimal place in 1 2/10 times 3, there is one decimal place in the product. The product is 3 6/10. That is the answer. So notice the pattern. If we have 12 times 3/10, we get 3 6/10. If we have 12 times 300ths, we get 3600ths. And if we have 12 times 3000ths, we get 36 thousandths. We'll learn more about this as we do the practice problems. Here's another example. This is an example of multiplying a decimal by a decimal. So we have 4/10 times 2 1/10. First, count the total number of decimal places in both factors. Then carry out the multiplication without using the decimal points. So we can really just look at this as 4 times 21 at first. So we will multiply the 4 times the 1, which is 4, and the 4 times the 2, which is 8, and we will get 84. Then adjust the answer so that it has the same number of decimal places as the two factors combined. In this case, that's 2. So we have 4, let me see if my pen can work here. We have 4 behind the decimal point, and we have 1 behind the decimal point. That means we're going to have two numbers behind the decimal point in our answer. So our answer of 4/10 times 2 1/10 is going to be 8400ths, because since we have 2 places behind the decimal point in my question, we need 2 places behind the decimal point in our answer. So let's practice. We have quite a few practice problems today. We're going to do 9 8/10 times 2. So we will we'll rewrite this 9.8 times 2. 2 times 8 is 16, carry the 1, bring down the 6. 2 times 9 is 18, plus 1 is 19. So we'll write our 19. And then we have 1 place behind the decimal in my question, so we will want 1 place behind the decimal in the answer. And so our answer is 19 6/10. Next we have 6700ths times 8, or 0 6700ths times 8. So we'll put our decimal point, 6, 7 times 8. 8 times 7 is 56, carry the 5, bring down the 6. 8 times 6 is 48, plus 5, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53. 2 places behind the decimal in my question, so 2 places behind the decimal in my answer. My answer is 5 3600ths. Here we have 547 thousandths times 3, so I'm going to go 0.457 times 3. 3 times 7 is 21, carry the 2, bring down the 1. 3 times 5 is 15, plus 2 is 17, carry the 1, bring down the 7. 3 times 4 is 12, plus 1 is 13. I have 1, 2, 3 places behind the decimal point in my question, so I have 1, 2, 3 places behind the decimal point in my answer. My answer is 1 371 thousandths. All right, now here's some practice problems with a decimal by a decimal. So here I have 51 hundredths times 17 hundredths. 7 times 1 is 7. 7 times 5 is 35. 0 for place value. 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 5 is 5. We're going to add those together. 7 plus 0 is 7. 5 plus 1 is 6. 3 plus 5 is 8. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 places behind the decimal in my question, so I need 1, 2, 3, 4 places behind the decimal in my answer. And my answer is 867 ten-thousandths. All right, next we have 9 and 3 tenths times 4 and 1 tenth. 1 times 3 is 3. 1 times 9 is 9. 0 for place value. 4 times 3 is 12. 4 times 9 is 36, plus 1 is 37. Add it all together. 3 plus 0 is 3. 9 plus 2 is 11. Carry the 1, bring down the 1. 1 plus 7 is 8, and nothing plus 3 is 3. I have 1, 2 places behind the decimal in my question, so I have 1, 2 places behind the decimal in my answer. Next we have 3 and 2 hundredths times 6 tenths. So we will do 3.02 times 0.6. Notice in multiplication we don't line up the decimals. We don't have to. We don't have to worry about them till the end. Only when we multiply. We do have to line them up when we add and subtract, and even when we divide. 6 times 2 is 12. So I carry the 1, bring down the 2. 6 times 0 is 0, plus 1 is 1. 6 times 3 is 18. Now, I really don't have to do the zeros because it will not add any value to my answer. So I can do, I'm really done multiplying. And I can count how many spaces are behind the decimal in my question, which is 1, 2, 3. So that's how many are going to be behind the decimal in my answer, which is 1, 2, 3. And I put my decimal here. So my answer is 1 and 812 thousandths. Here's our first practice word problem. The price of admission to a minor league baseball game increased by 17 hundredths times the amount of last year's admission. If last year's admission was $26, how much is the increase? So here we're going to take 26 times 0.17. 7 times 6 is 42. 7 times 2 is 14, plus 4 is 18. 0 for place value. 1 times 6 is 6. 1 times 2 is 2. Let's add this all together. 2 plus 0 is 2. 6 plus 8 is 14. Carry the 1. Bring down the 4. And 2 plus 1 plus 1 is 4. We have 1, 2 places behind the decimal in my question, so 1, 2 places behind the decimal in our answer. We're going to have a decimal point here and a dollar sign here. So we will say that it increased by $4.42. That was the amount of the increase. Now, if we want to know the new price for admission, we'd have to add $26 plus $4.42, 0 plus 2. And this time we do line up the decimals. Notice 0 plus 2 is 2, 0 plus 4 is 4. Line up the decimals. 4 plus 6 is 10. Carry the 1. Bring down the 0. And 1 plus 2 is 3. So the new price for admission is $30.42. Practice word problem 2. Angie walked 1 7/10 miles in 1/2 hour. If she walks the same rate, how far will she walk in 1.5 hours or 1 5/10 hours? So here we're multiplying 1.7 times 1.5. 5 times 7 is 35. Carry the 3. Bring down the 5. 5 times 1 is 5 plus 3 is 8. 0 the place value. 1 times 7 is 7. 1 times 1 is 1. Add it all together. 5 plus 0 is 5. 8 plus 7 is 15. Carry the 1. Bring down the 5. 1 plus 1 is 2. We have 1, 2 places behind the decimal in our question. So we have 1, 2 places behind the decimal in our answer. We'll put our decimal point right here. So how far will she walk in 1.5 hours? She will walk 2 and 55 hundredths miles. All right, challenge yourself. You have 2 challenge yourself problems today. To determine the tip for a restaurant server, many people multiply the amount of the check by 15 hundredths. Find the amount of the tip on a check for $20. You're going to want to do 20 times 15 hundredths. Remember to count the number of places in your decimal point, in the decimal place values for your question, and that's how many will be in your answer. And then Carly's bedroom measures 13 2/10 feet long by 10 3/10 feet wide. Use the formula for area to determine the number of square feet for the floor of Carly's bedroom. Remember, the formula for area is length times width. So really you're just multiplying 13.2 by 10.3. And you'll count the number of place values in your question, and then that's the number of place values behind the decimal you'll have in your answer. All right. Review your learning goals. Have you mastered all of them? Do you need to go back and review and practice again? In your journal, write down if you're at a 1, 2, or 3 in your learning. In your journal, write down 1 or more questions you still have from this lesson. If you don't have any questions, you do not have to write anything down. And see you tomorrow with your work done and ready to learn.